Welcome to the Review Lounge. Want to say hello to my people from Section A and from Section B. Nice to have you here with me tonight in the lounge. I'm here with C3PO, my main man. I'm going to work you through the review. Mr. Rich with a T. All right. Whew, feels good every time I do that. Okay, first Christian emperor, of course, that's Constantine. Let's talk a little bit about his rise to power. I'm going to try to make this short and sweet and a little bit hip-hop, as you can see. Okay, so Rome's first Christian emperor comes about as a result of the split of the empire, the first tetrarchy under Diocletian, who divides the empire between himself and another guy named Maximian, who's not pictured here, but of course his main Caesar is Galerius, who plays an important role in the persecution of Christians and ultimately in the toleration of those same Christians, okay? And then down there on the bottom left you have Maxentius and Constantine, aka MX5 and Cocoa Butter. Anyway, the two of those guys, of course, fight it out at Milvian Bridge, leaving Constantine in charge of the West, and then it's only a little while before he meets face-to-face with Licinius, a.k.a. Licinius. Sorry, that's Licinius. Changed it a little bit as time went better, got better. Constantine and Licinius battle it out in the end, and Constantine ends up as sole ruler, you'll remember, okay? So, there goes Licinius. No idea why that happened. All right. Couple key events you need to hold on to. Make that 4. The first tetrarchy, that's Diocletian splitting the empire, trying to figure out that problem of succession. Remember that from the last test. What do? Hand it to kids? Seems problematic. When we hand it to a successor, seems problematic. So what we do is we pick the successor way ahead of time and let him serve kind of like a vice president, and then he works his way up. Of course, that worked for all of no generations perfectly, but anyway, they keep trying. Now, 311, that's the Edict of Toleration. That's when Galerius gets real sick, asks the Christians to pray for him. They agree. He says, okay, we can be legal. And then at Milvian Bridge, we've got Constantine's victory over Maxentius, resulting in ultimately an Edict of Milan. Remember, Edict of Milan is not quite as big a deal as the Edict of Toleration because by that time, Christianity was already legal. Now, over to the right, you see a cool icon. That icon is a picture of a saint, as you can tell by the halo around his head. Who is that? That is Saint Constantine. That's right, he is still looked upon, especially in the East, that'd be like the Greek Orthodox, still looked upon as a saint in the church, a man of heroic faith, if you will. You can even see down there underneath his halo, it says Hagios, okay, Konstantinos. All right, and my Greek people will know that Hagios is the word for saint or holy. And Konstantios is a weird way of saying Constantine, which is a weird way of saying Constantine. All right, here's some key facts. Moving on quickly, remember these things from Constantine's rise to power. The labarum, the big sign in the heavens. In this you will conquer, something like that. Well, anyways, he turns the Chi-Rho symbol there, which is, of course, the first 2 letters in the word Christos, Greek for Christ, or anointed one. He turns that into his standard, and he marches under that in all of his wars following Milvian Bridge. Remember also that he builds this huge arch out of everybody else's art trash. That's called spoila, right? He takes his arch, and you can see here with kind of color coding, all the different things that he borrowed from other folks to build up his arch. So you got pictures of Trajan up there, and Marcus Aurelius and Constantine all having a good time celebrating his victory at the Milvian Bridge. I think there's another leftover animation here, so watch this. Whee! Oh, there it goes again. Sometimes when you cut and paste in Keynote. Fun. All right, talk a little bit about the Constantinian era. Just a quick reminder here. In the background, you see a nice picture of a humongous church, the likes of which you would never have seen before Constantine's promotion of Christianity. Not just legalization, but promotion. If there is one thing he did that was sort of different and new, it was this active underwriting of Christianity, like with lots and lots of money and lots of influence. That's something Galerius definitely did not do. So if you want to think about this shift that we've been talking about in terms of like who did what for the church, Galerius legalizes it. Constantine begins to actively support it, kind of give it favored status. Theodosius makes it a state religion. We'll get to him in a little bit. But in terms of Constantine, remember we have a couple of important things here. We've got this new capital, which is built out in the east in Byzantium, called Constantinople in the day. And we have three primary reasons for doing that. One, he's still in a good place to deal with both the east and the western kinds of problems. That's the Germanic tribes on the west and the new Persian group in the east. And there's tons of money to be made over here because a person living right here couldn't make their way easily up into the Black Sea. The Black Sea is, in fact, where that little money symbol is. So lots of money to be made, and also a nice position to deal with two different kinds of problems, plus nice insulation with the Black Sea there too, and Asia Minor. Keeps you from getting attacked from so many different spots. Another big innovation for Constantine's reign was the building of these huge churches. Prior to this, everybody's meeting in homes, turning living rooms into sanctuaries and stuff like that. But now we got these beautiful big churches. Three main parts that you need to remember are the apse, where that would be where the altar was, and you'd see the Lord's Supper would kind of be celebrated right there. The naves, where everybody is, and the narthex is where they go to have tea and crumpets after the service is over. Just kidding, but that is where they would enter. This is called, of course, the Basilica model, and it's going to be the basic model for most churches throughout the Middle Ages. Now, to talk about Constantine's faith, we need to remember, of course, that he is not an Akhenaten. How about that block out? Anyway, however, he was baptized. Don't forget that. He was baptized, but he was baptized late. And the bishop who baptized him actually was kind of a questionable theological status. But the point is, he got baptized. But other than that, he didn't really submit to church ordinances. He didn't give himself over to discipleship by a bishop, and he continued to allow the pagan temples to operate. He even would officiate at times when it was required. So he was not an Akhenaten who, against all resistance, tried to, totally reform Egypt's religion. Nor was he a Theodosius. He didn't turn it into a state religion. So as we said there, he's sort of a middle ground between Galerius and Theodosius. Just a quick review of a few of the innovations that came about in the actual liturgy of the church. Got the smelly stuff, the pretty stuff, and the singing stuff, and then the gigantic stuff. All that stuff couldn't really happen prior to Constantine, because prior to that, everybody's real simple, doing stuff in, like doing your liturgies in your home or in the catacombs, and kind of on the down low, really. Now everything's out in the open, and it immediately begins to adopt all the kind of trappings of the Roman imperial state. So, all right, what happens after Constantine? We've got a Christian empire almost, and we've got more and more emperors after Constantine espoused the Christian faith, with one exception you'll remember. So let's talk about what happens after Constantine goes this way. I'm going to let C-3PO, my main man, get out of here. See you later, buddy. Okay. Remember, it's after Constantine that the division between the empires really begins to take shape. And there were four major influences in that. We talked about history. One, the East, way older, way more established than the West. Geography. The East is just in a nice place. It's got the it's positioned well. It's got it's further away from some of the Germanic tribes and their problems. We got economics. Remember, the East is more urban, more adaptable. Look back at some of the lectures for details here, but also we said social studies, and that's in terms of just like population was bigger in the East. The kings in the East tended to be smarter, make better decisions, less inflation. The East was just the place to be. And remember, it outlasted the Western Empire by a good 1,000 years. Now, got to talk about the Germani. Okay, this was a term developed by Julius Caesar. These guys were the barbaric tribes living up in Europe, having no language until this missionary named Ulfilas translates the Bible into their language, Gothic, but not before having given them an alphabet. So they didn't even have a way of writing it down until he showed up. Now remember, this guy, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the next couple of days, but this guy was an Arian, okay? So he was not an Orthodox Christian. He did not think that Jesus and God were exactly the same thing. Moving on here to Attila the Hun. Give him a rap name too. Hey, honey. I think I like that one best of all so far. Close second to cocoa butter, though. Anyway, Attila the Hun begins to press into Europe, okay, pressing up against the borders of the Roman Empire around the 4th century, and he is seemingly unstoppable. And it's because of his run number. He's not a Germanic, okay, that's important. He is from way east, okay, like past Russia and all that stuff. I mean, this guy is from way out in the east. He comes in and terrorizes the Germanic tribes. They go running from him and cause havoc all throughout the Roman Empire. So that's really what's going on here. It's not that these Germanic tribes all of a sudden decided to just go into Roman territory. You know, prior to Attila's arrival, they were kind of crossing the border here and there. There was some some engagements. Don't get me wrong, but it was really with Attila the Hun that things got ferocious and the fighting got very, very serious. Attila, you remember, makes his way all the way into Rome at one point, okay, and is mysteriously, nay, miraculously convinced to leave by Pope Leo. So possibly he had some, help there from former apostles and stuff. Okay, well, things don't go along for just great forever. Remember that shortly after Constantine's reign, a new emperor comes along. We call him Precious Jules. Julian the Apostate. Okay, remember, called apostate not by his friends but by his enemies. And he's called this because of his massive reform program, attempted to kind of give all religions equal status again. Here are some of the things he did. I remember especially the school edict, which made people like me an impossibility in the Roman state, who kind of taught from a Christian worldview. He also issued a tolerance edict, which is sort of direct opposition to Constantine's favored religion status after the Edict of Milan. Okay, and strangely, he could have actually been the rebuilder of the temple. Many pagan kings have claimed that, but he didn't get that far. They didn't actually get to do it. Now, after Julian's reform program was a failure, I mean, Christianity was too deeply entrenched now, and so as soon as he leaves, the emperors immediately restore Christianity this favor status. The next major event is the Battle of Adrianople. Now remember, this is about the same time that Attila has come rushing into Europe, causing fear and terror among all the Germanic tribes, and they are desperately in need of a place of refuge. So they are appealing to an emperor named Valens, who's in the east at this time, asking for permission to cross the Danube and take refuge in the eastern part of the empire. Now, this is a similar story, very similar to today. It was like all these people needed to run. They were scared for their lives, but nobody could take them because they just don't have the resources. So Valens is like, well, I can take a few of you if you can serve in the army, but not everybody can come across. And so he opens the gate, and of course what happens there, it pours in. And he's like, okay, send them to Marcianopolis. And they send them to Marcianopolis. Well, the doors are closed there. Nobody's letting them in. They get mad, they get furious, and before long, hostilities break out at Adrianople. And this is where Valens actually dies. So he is he's killed there. 2/3 of his army is actually dead. Now this is not the end of the Eastern Empire, eastern part of the empire, but it is a major defeat for them. Okay, leaves things open for a guy named Theodosius to take over, or as we would call him, Boss Theo. Anyway, Theodosius takes over and again is able to rule both parts of the empire again. Okay, since the first one to do that since Constantine. And Theodosius goes way further than Galerius, even further than Constantine, and really turns Christianity into a state religion. And he just outright closes the pagan temples, forbids them to do this, forbids them to practice in open. He establishes Orthodox Nicene Christianity as the official version of Christianity, so he alienates all the Arians in his empire, and basically has kind of turned Christianity into the only acceptable practice. That is, Orthodox Nicene Christianity is the only acceptable practice. All right? Well, after Theodosius, things crumbled quickly indeed. As you can see here, the last emperors to reign were all reigning for years, months. Okay, we got Valentinian III, who is able to pull off a good 3-decade rule. This all is going to kind of work its way down to Romulus Augustulus, who is the last official, and you can't see me right now, but I'm air quoting, Romulus Augustus, the last official Roman emperor of the West. But, I mean, he was a kid, he was a puppet, he was killed pretty quickly by a general named Odoacer. It's Odoacer. You pick your pronunciation. I say Odoacer, you say Odoacer. Odoacer. Whacker sounds great. Let's do Whacker. Odoacer. Anyways, so he kills Romulus Augustus, and that's the end. That's the official end. That's also the end of this review.